The afternoon heat clung to Ridgewood Heights like a heavy blanket, suffocating and stale, pressing against the cracked pavements and flickering streetlights that never quite worked. Trevon Hale moved with quiet purpose along the sidewalk, shoulders relaxed, hoodie pulled low, every step measured. Nothing about him looked extraordinary, just another young black man heading home. And that was exactly how he needed it to be. 14 months undercover had taught him the power of invisibility. He had learned to erase the sharpness in his posture, the authority in his gaze, the speed in his reflexes. Because if anyone knew the truth about who he was, the entire multi-state trafficking investigation would crumble. It had taken years of work, dozens of agents, and Trevon's own willingness to sacrifice everything. His routine, his identity, his voice. All for one mission. And today was supposed to be quiet, just an ordinary walk, just another shadow among shadows. But the patrol car that screeched up beside him shattered that illusion. Tires screamed against asphalt. A harsh chirp of sirens sliced the calm. Trevon didn't break stride, but his senses sharpened instantly. One wrong move, one wrong sentence could endanger not just the case, but his life. 2 officers stepped out. Officer Bradley Knox emerged first, large, square-jawed, carrying the kind of swagger that came from never having his authority questioned. The type who believed his badge made him invincible. His partner, Officer Daniels, followed, nervous, twitching, eyes scanning Trevon in short, panicked bursts. A rookie trying too hard to impress the wrong mentor. "Hey, you, stop right there," Knox barked. Trevon stopped, slowly. His hands stayed visible, palms loose. His breathing stayed calm, military calm, agent calm. But beneath that controlled exterior, a familiar ache pressed against his ribs. He had seen this scene unfold too many times. Not in training, not in simulations, in real life. Black men stopped for existing, for breathing, for being. "What seems to be the issue, officer?" Trevon asked, voice neutral. Knox sneered. "Don't play smart. We got reports of a suspicious male matching your description." Trevon almost smiled. There were 100,000 black men in hoodies across the city. But Knox didn't want an explanation. He wanted a target. "I'm just heading home," Trevon said. "I'm not involved in anything." Daniels stepped closer, voice shaky. "ID, now." Trevon's heart tightened. His badge, his real badge, could not be shown. Revealing he was a federal agent would blow everything. Worse, the criminals he had been infiltrating would scatter before nightfall. Months of work lost, victims left unrescued, lives ruined. But if he refused... Knox's stance shifted, aggression rising. "Why are you walking around here?" Knox demanded. "This area's patrolled. People are nervous. I live 3 blocks down," Trevon replied. "And walking isn't a crime." Knox didn't like that answer. In 2 long strides, Knox closed the distance, chest puffed, jaw tight. "You got an attitude," Trevon breathed slowly. "I'm cooperating." "No, you're not." Knox shoved him. Trevon stumbled back, not because he had been overpowered, but because he had to look powerless. He had been trained to neutralize armed threats in under 2 seconds. He could have Knox face down before Daniels could blink. But that wasn't an option. Not until he assessed the risk, not until he understood how far this would go. "Hands behind your head," Knox snapped. "For what? I didn't—" Knox didn't let him finish. The officer grabbed Trevon by the hoodie, yanking him forward, slamming him against the patrol car with a force meant to humiliate. Daniels flinched. Knox? Maybe we should—" "Shut up, rookie," Knox growled. "This one's hiding something. They always are. They," the word that felt like chains. Pain rippled through Trevon's shoulder, but he stayed still. He had to. The mission depended on it. But inside him something burned. Anger, exhaustion, sadness that this scene could happen, even when he carried the authority of the United States government in his pocket. Knox kicked Trevon's legs apart, searching him aggressively. "Where's the drugs, the weapon? You think you can walk around like you own the street?" Trevon's jaw clenched. "I'm not resisting." "Shut your mouth." Daniels' voice cracked. "Sir, protocol." Knox turned. "Say another word, Daniels, and I'll make sure you're back directing traffic." Daniels swallowed his fear. Trevon's chest pressed against cold metal. Knox tightened his grip, leaning close. "You think I won't throw you in a cell tonight? Or worse?" Trevon looked at his distorted reflection in the patrol car window. Calm eyes, steady breath, controlled fury. "Officer, This is a mistake. Knox laughed. The only mistake is you thinking I care. And then, without warning, Knox struck him across the back of the head. A sharp, stunning blow. Daniels froze. Sir, you can't. Knox silenced him with a glare. Trevon felt blood warm his scalp. The world tilted momentarily, and something inside him cracked. Not fear, not pain, a line, a boundary. One Knox had just crossed. Trevon inhaled deeply, a calm, lethal calm, the kind only a federal agent possessed. He whispered, low enough for only Knox to hear, you should stop. Right now. Knox smirked. Or what? Trevon slowly raised his head, eyes steady, voice unshaking. Or you're about to assault a federal agent. Knox froze. Daniel's eyes widened. But the damage was already done. For a moment, the world seemed to freeze, the kind of silence that forms in the air just before a storm breaks. Officer Knox's smug expression flickered, then stiffened. Trevon didn't move, didn't shift, didn't blink. He simply let the words hang between them like a lit fuse. What? Knox muttered, laughter trembling in his throat like something confused, unstable. A federal agent, Trevon repeated, voice calm but edged with quiet steel. And you've just assaulted me while I was complying. Daniels stepped back instinctively, palms curling tight. The color drained from his face. He had seen officers lose their careers for half of what Knox had just done. Careers, pensions, reputations, everything gone in an instant. And if this man really was a federal agent, Knox shoved the thought away. He needed control. He needed dominance. He needed this black man to be lying because the truth would shatter him. You think I'm stupid enough to believe that? Knox scoffed. Trevon kept his gaze forward. Check my back pocket. No way, Knox snapped. You're probably hiding. I told you, Trevon said, voice suddenly colder. I'm not resisting. And you put your hands on a federal agent during an unlawful stop. If you don't check my ID, the body cam footage will show you ignored verification. Daniel's breath caught. Sir, body cam. Knox blinked. His hand shot up to his chest, light still red, recording paused. Standard abuse protocol. He turned it back on, but the damage was done. For the last several minutes, he'd been operating off the record. Internal Affairs wouldn't care why. Trevon felt every second tightening around the officer's throat. Check the ID, Trevon repeated. Knox's jaw flexed, his teeth ground together, his fingers trembled, but he reached, slowly, into Trevon's back pocket. The moment his fingers brushed the leather wallet, he knew something was wrong. This wasn't the flimsy, worn wallet of a street kid. It was structured, heavy, official. He pulled it out. Daniels leaned forward, swallowing hard. Sir, the emblem, that's... Knox snapped the wallet open. The badge gleamed. Federal. Real. Issued. The nameplate engraved. Trevon Hale, Federal Special Investigations Unit. Knox's breath shattered. His throat constricted. His mind scrambled for understanding, logic, escape, anything. But there was nothing. The badge was real. The credentials were real. The photo was real. He had assaulted a federal agent. Daniels whispered, "Oh God." Trevon slowly turned his head, just enough for his eyes to lock onto Knox's. They were steady, unblinking, full of a disappointment far more cutting than anger. "Now," Trevon said softly, "what are you going to do next, Officer Knox?" Knox opened his mouth. Nothing came out. The man who had barked orders like a god on asphalt moments ago suddenly looked like a child who had finally encountered the consequences of his own arrogance. Why didn't you say something?" Knox stammered. "I did," Trevon replied. "I told you I wasn't resisting. I told you it was a mistake. I told you walking isn't a crime." Daniels wiped sweat from his forehead. "Sir, protocol says we have to notify command. This is an officer-involved assault on a federal agent. There's mandatory reporting, mandatory custody, mandatory—" "Shut up, Daniels!" Knox barked, but his voice cracked. Even yelling no longer carried power. It carried fear. Trevon stepped forward slowly, rubbing the back of his head where Knox had struck him. The gesture wasn't dramatic. It wasn't aggressive. It was quiet, controlled, and somehow that made it 10 times more intimidating. "You need to call your supervisor," Trevon said. "No, wait, listen, we can talk about this," Knox said, backing up. Let's just forget this happened." Trevon's eyes narrowed. "Forget? I mean, we can work it out. No need for paperwork. I can explain myself." Knox's voice broke into something desperate, pathetic. Trevon stepped closer. You shoved me for walking home, slammed me into a car, hit me, threatened me, turned off your body cam, and now you want to— He paused. A single heartbeat. The weight of the truth dropped like a stone. Bury it. Knox's throat bobbed. I wasn't trying to hurt anybody, You saw a black man in a hoodie, Trevon finished quietly. And you assumed criminal. Daniels stepped forward timidly. Agent Hale. Sir, should I call for an ambulance? Should I report this to dispatch? Do you want internal affairs notified immediately? The rookie was terrified, but he wasn't the problem. Trevon looked directly at Knox. You're lucky, Trevon said, because right now I'm not thinking about my pride. I'm thinking about the 14 months I've spent undercover and how quickly your mistake could blow everything. Both officers froze. Trevon continued, voice steady. If command shows up right now, this entire street becomes a crime scene. News cameras roll in. My face gets out. The people I'm investigating run before nightfall. Victims lose their chance at justice. Daniels blinked. You're in the middle of an operation? Trevon didn't answer. His silence was enough. Knox swallowed hard. So what now? Trevon stepped back, crossing his arms, not in anger, but in authority. True authority, the kind that didn't need yelling, the kind that grew from responsibility, not ego. You two, Trevon said, are going to listen very carefully. Knox nodded, terrified. Daniels straightened, sweating. Trevon held up a cautionary finger. One wrong radio call can ruin everything. So here's what's going to happen. Exactly. The officers leaned in, and Trevon began to speak. For the first time since the confrontation began, Officer Knox wasn't the loudest presence in the street. Silence ruled now, thick, heavy, pressing down like humid air before a thunderstorm. Trevon watched both men carefully, their breathing, their posture, their fear. He didn't enjoy this moment, but he understood it. Fear had carved scars across entire communities. Today, it sat on the opposite side, finally pressing down on the man who had used his badge like a weapon. Trevon took one slow step forward. You're going to walk back to your cruiser, he said evenly, and you're not going to call this in. Not yet, Daniels blinked. But, protocol. This isn't about protocol, Trevon cut in. It's about consequences and timing. Knox swallowed. Agent Hale. Look, I know I messed up, but I can fix this. No, Trevon said. You can't fix anything. That's the problem. Knox's mouth snapped shut. Trevon continued. Right now, my undercover status is more important than your panic. If this incident hits radio waves, dispatch, or your supervisor before I finish my investigation, you'll cost the federal government a year of work. You'll blow an entire operation. Daniel's eyes widened. What kind of operation? Trevon let a beat of silence speak for him. His expression hardened, not cruel but resolute, one that involves dangerous men who don't hesitate to kill. I've infiltrated the highest level of a trafficking ring that stretches across 3 cities. They trust me. They believe I'm one of them. If they hear even a rumor that a federal agent was involved in an altercation here today, it won't take them long to figure out who. Knox's breath quickened. They'd come after you? They'd come after everyone, Trevon said, including the victims we haven't rescued yet. The rookie shivered. Knox's face lost all color. The harshness of the truth sank deep. Trevon continued, voice low. This isn't the kind of case where I get a second chance. One slip, one incident printed on some shift supervisor's report, and the entire ring disappears in hours, and the families waiting for closure wait forever. Daniels murmured, Oh my God. Knox ran a trembling hand across his jaw. Okay, so what do you want from us? Trevon looked at him, not with rage, not with vengeance, but with a disappointment that stung deeper than brutality. I want you to understand what you almost destroyed. Knox lowered his gaze to the pavement. For 14 months, Trevon said quietly, I've lived like a ghost. No identity, no support, no margin for error. Every day could be the last. Every conversation could be the one that exposes me. You think that's easy? You think walking these streets is some kind of game? Knox didn't answer. Federal agents, Trevon continued, are trained to survive traps, guns, ambushes. But we're not trained to survive reckless cops who think our skin is a threat. Knox winced. Daniels stepped forward, voice trembling. Agent Hale. Sir, if we don't call this in now, eventually there will be questions. The camera was paused. The incident will have to be explained. And it will be, Trevon replied, but on my terms, not yours. He looked directly at Knox. You will report this, Trevon said, but not today, not now. You will do it only after I contact my agency and give them the details myself. They will send a federal liaison. They will review your conduct, and they will decide whether you keep your badge. Knox's lips parted as if to argue, but nothing came out. Until then, Trevon added, you will do nothing to interfere with my operation. You will keep this street quiet. You will not question, chase, or detain anyone connected to my undercover identity. You will not patrol this block without authorization. Daniels nodded rapidly. Understood. Knox stayed silent. Trevon stepped closer, close, enough that Knox could see the calm fire behind his eyes. Look at me, Officer Knox. Slowly, Knox lifted his gaze. You ever lay hands on someone again because you think you're untouchable? Trevon said quietly. And you won't just lose your badge, you'll lose your freedom. Knox's breathing trembled. I understand. No, Trevon replied. You will understand. Starting now. He walked past both officers, heading toward the sidewalk. His head throbbed from the blow Knox delivered earlier, but he didn't show it. A federal agent does not give his enemies the satisfaction of seeing pain. He paused near the curb. You're going to get in your cruiser, he said without turning. You're going to sit for 2 minutes. Then you're going to drive, away, like nothing happened. Daniels nodded immediately. Knox hesitated. Do you understand? Trevon asked again. Yes, Knox whispered. Yes, sir. He didn't say agent, he said sir. And that told Trevon everything he needed to know. The two officers retreated to their vehicle. Trevon listened to the sound of boots scuffing asphalt, the click of doors, the engine rumbling weakly. But before they pulled off, Daniels leaned out the window and called softly, Agent Hale. I'm sorry, really. The apology was genuine. Knox said nothing, but his grip on the steering wheel was white-knuckled, shaken, humbled. The cruiser pulled away. Trevon exhaled, not relief, not anger, resolve. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his encrypted phone, and tapped a single contact. It rang once. A voice answered, Report. Trevon glanced down the street where the confrontation had unfolded. We have a problem, he said, and the situation just became bigger than the case. Trevon didn't return home immediately. He ducked into an abandoned alley, the kind of place nobody looks at twice. He pressed his encrypted phone to his ear, pulse steady, breath slow. Explain, the voice on the line demanded. Trevon scanned the street, quiet, empty, no patrol car, no witnesses. I was stopped, Trevon said, unlawfully. It got physical. A long silence. Identity compromised? No. Not yet. What agency? Local PD, Trevon answered. Patrol unit. One officer escalated. The rookie tried to intervene. And your cover? Still intact. Another pause. Cold, calculating. Do we need extraction? Trevon closed his eyes. He saw the faces of the victims the traffickers controlled. He saw the women he was trying to free. He saw the younger kids they were forced to recruit. He saw the men responsible, dangerous, ruthless, capable of disappearing in an hour. No extraction, Trevon said. Not until I finish this. The voice hesitated for the first time. You sure? I didn't endure 14 months undercover just to stop because one arrogant cop felt powerful, Trevon muttered. Understood. We'll move on your timeline. Anything else? Trevon inhaled. Send the liaison. Quietly. This PD needs accountability. Already done. The call ended. Trevon stepped out of the alley and began walking, not home but toward the warehouse district where his next undercover meeting would take place. He couldn't afford to miss it. The ring's leader, Raymondo Cruz, trusted him now, a rare and dangerous position. But before he could take 10 steps, a black SUV slowed to a stop beside him. Not the police, not the traffickers, government plates. Trevon stiffened. The back window rolled down. A woman in a sharp Navy federal suit leaned forward. Her hair was pinned back, her badge clipped to her lapel. She radiated calm authority. Agent Hale? She asked. Yes, Trevon said. I'm Senior Liaison Director Mara Whitfield. Internal Affairs Division, Federal Oversight. Get in. Trevon hesitated. Now. Yes, now. Her tone left no space for debate. He got in. Inside, 2 more federal officers sat quietly, observing, not speaking. The SUV rolled forward smoothly. Whitfield turned to him. We received your report. You did the right thing calling immediately, but we have a situation. Trevon braced himself. What kind? Officer Daniels submitted an anonymous internal flag to his department within minutes of leaving the scene, Whitfield said. He didn't name you, but he reported excessive force by his superior. That triggered an automatic review. Trevon exhaled slowly. Meaning command is already looking? Yes, and they're scrambling. The chief wants to find out what happened before the press does. Press? Trevon repeated. Whitfield nodded. A resident across the street caught the last 30 seconds on their doorbell camera. It's circulating privately. It shows the officer slamming you. Hard. Trevon stared out the window. He knew how fast videos spread, how fast narratives formed, how little the truth mattered once a clip hit the internet. And the officer? Trevon asked. Knox? Whitfield smirked, scared, trying to bury everything. His captain already called us asking if a federal agent was involved. I told him no confirmation yet. Good, Trevon said. Keep it that way. Whitfield studied him for a long moment. Agent Hale, this isn't the first time you've endured something like this on the job. How many times have you had to play small to protect your cover? Trevon didn't answer. She nodded, respecting the silence. Then she said, We're going to make sure the right people answer for this, without blowing your operation. Understood? Understood. The SUV slowed. We're here, Whitfield said. They stopped behind an industrial building, a back entrance. No cameras. This is your drop-off point, she said. We'll handle the PD. You handle the mission. And Agent Hale. Trevon looked at her. What that officer did, it won't disappear. Not anymore. He nodded once. He stepped out of the SUV and closed the door behind him. The vehicle rolled away silently, leaving him alone with the weight of the mission. Trevon scanned the environment. The warehouse where his meeting would happen was 2 blocks down. Dim lights flickered inside. Men moved shadows against the walls. His heartbeat steadied. Back to work, he told himself, but he barely reached the loading dock when he heard footsteps behind him. Heavy, fast. He turned. Officer Knox, breathless, sweating, terrified. Trevon, Agent Hale, please, Knox stammered. You have to listen. You can't let them take my badge. I have a family. I've got a mortgage. I can't. You followed me? Trevon asked, voice low and dangerous. I just need to talk. You tracked a federal agent during an active investigation? Trevon stepped closer, eyes sharp. Are you insane? Knox's voice cracked. I didn't know what else to do. Then you should have thought about that, Trevon said, before you put your hands on me. Knox's eyes filled with panic. I'm begging you, don't let them ruin my life. Trevon leaned in. You ruined your own life. Knox froze. And if you open your mouth again, Trevon said, I'll have you arrested right here, right now, while the men inside that warehouse watch you dragged away. Men who don't like cops. Knox turned pale. I didn't know. No, Trevon cut him off. You never know. That's your problem. And that's why you're dangerous. Knox staggered back, tears forming. Please. Trevon didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He simply said, go home, tell the truth, and pray the system gives you mercy. Knox swallowed hard, nodded brokenly, and ran, back toward his patrol car. Trevon waited until the officer disappeared, then he turned toward the warehouse. His mission called, and this time he wasn't walking into it as a ghost. He was walking in as a man who had survived the system trying to break him, a man who would finish his mission, a man who would bring justice one way